Fox had come to us and said, "Do you want to do another X-Files movie?" And I said, "Sure." And I had an idea, something that had occurred to me, and I ran it by Frank. He liked the idea. We fleshed it out and came up with what I would call a whole story.
7 years ago, actually, it was season 9 of the X-Files in 2001. And obviously we had our hands full at that time, so we didn't start work on it then. But then the series ended in 2002. And I think it was probably 6 months to a year later that we actually started talking about this story.
Years went by because there were contract negotiations, and then there was a lawsuit. And then finally, when we got back into it, that story existed, the idea existed. But to be honest, we lost the cards that we had boarded the story with. And so we were sort of back to square one, and I was kind of like, we had done so much hard work, we'd set for so long coming up with a story, but the truth is, it was the best thing that could have happened to us.
6 years had passed, and so we were different, and the way we looked at these characters was different. And the emotional story for Mulder and Scully had to reflect the passage of time. So even if we'd had those cards, I think we would have thrown out that part of the story. So what was really exciting and interesting when Chris and I got back together in spring of 2007 was all the character stuff. Where are Mulder and Scully in their lives? What's the state of their relationship? What matters to them now? And what's this movie about?
The X-Files kind of grew up with the internet. We were one of the first TV shows, I think, to really have a connection with our audience via the internet. We'd actually go online right after the show and sometimes chat with the fans about what they liked and what they didn't like. And that was a very new thing. Now that's sort of, that whole internet relationship has kind of changed. The fans now have a tremendous opportunity to find out what we're doing. It's very hard to keep a secret, and we're determined for this movie, when it opens, to be a surprise. I don't know if we'll succeed, but so far we've been able to keep it under wraps, and we've done that by having a very tight security on the story, the script, the production. So far, so good.
I know you prefer I stay away.
The nicest thing about doing this movie is really the chance to be together again with David and Gillian and so many of the people who made the show a success in the first place. And that's something that is so rare in this business, is the chance to bring together a family again. And so, you know, David I'd seen a few times over the years since the show ended. Gillian I hadn't seen at all because she moved to London. And it was, you know, it was wonderful and powerful to see them again, particularly to see them become Mulder and Scully again.
I'm a little tired, confused. You know. I forgot how fast it can turn. It was great, you know. We hadn't seen each other. I hadn't seen Gillian for like 5 years, I think, since we ended the show. And, you know, it was great to see her personally. And then when we started working together, that was really interesting to kind of feel, you know, the Mulder-Scully thing happening again, which was nice, you know, nice that that's there. It's kind of just one of those things that you can rely on.
I think that we both felt, on the one hand, that we'd, you know, time has passed and we've matured in different ways, and I think there's a certain, a different level of appreciation that we both have for the series that we worked so hard on for such a long time, and that we both have an individual and unique experience that nobody else really has, and that's something that we can relate to each other on.
From the beginning, we liked the idea of coming back home, coming back to the city where it all began and the city that made the show a success. You know, it was a real heartbreaker for us leaving Vancouver after season 5. I mean, there was a lot of tears shed, and it was very tough. And so to revisit the X-Files gave us a chance to revisit all these familiar faces and friends that we'd left behind.
I think the truth about movie making is it is not a process of individuals It's a collaborative process in the best way, and the best way to do the job, I found, is to rely on, depend on, listen to, and value the input of everyone you've hired around you.
Jay?
Chicken and rice, can you serve it up with some love, please?
Coming up.
I've learned the great value of that. I wouldn't be sitting here today talking about the X-Files if I hadn't gathered the right group of people early on, and I have to say, with making the movie now, I have to say the same thing. I'm very, very lucky to have hired the right people at the right time.
In terms of making the movie, we've brought together as many people as we can, not just from the X-Files, but from all the shows that we did here in Vancouver, Harsh Realm, Millennium, and The Lone Gunman. And our crew is populated with all these faces that we worked with over the past 15 years. And there's even some people from the LA crew.
Bill Rowe, our DP, did the 4 years of the show that were in LA. And Marty McAnally, who is our A-camera operator, he was the focus puller on the first 5 years of the show up here. So there's a lot of stories like that make it very nice to come to set.
It's been incredible to come back, really, you know, to come back with some of the same guys that we worked with back then. Not only in just trusting that they know, you know, what we're up to and know how to deliver, but also there's a familiarity and a comfortability there that we just automatically fell into.
In the middle of the scene, when Jillian saw me for the first time, she missed the cue to go in because she had to come over and give me a hug, you know, which was kind of nice. And you know, David, who yes, I worked with him forever, but you know, you can't expect to always be remembered by everybody. But David, first day, right in the parking lot, goes, "My God, it's Michael Williamson. You're here too." And it was like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? How could I not be?
It all makes sense. You know, when Chris and I first talked about doing this movie, we kind of unconsciously both said, you know, I guess it should be in Vancouver, it really should be. And it just felt like, you know, almost superstitiously like the right thing to do.
Great!
The only people we couldn't hire were people who are so successful now. They've risen up to higher posts, like there's no job to offer them anymore. But it is like a homecoming and a reunion, and you have a sense of history. And I guess that's part of time passing too, is you sort of realize this is your generation, this is your cast of characters for your life. And there's a real appreciation, I think. It wasn't tough for Chris and I to get the wheels going again, because we had been living with it for quite a while, having worked on the script, and our imaginations were firmly back in this world. I imagine it was challenging for David and Jillian, to come back and be those people again after all those years.
Well, it was interesting because at first I felt like, been away from the show 5 years, but we did it for so long that it would be just jump right back into it as if we were doing another episode. But then after the first couple of days, I realized I hadn't done any work and I was woefully unprepared to perform. So then I got back into it. It took a little while though, it took a few days, took a week, which was lucky because the first week we were just running around like idiots, doing a lot of action. So that was kind of served as a nice reintroduction.
Sit. Please enter.
David's getting to do all the physical work. I get to sit on my fat ass. Am I allowed to say ass? My first day of work, I showed up, expecting to just slide into it. I thought about it, I worked on the script. And first of all, the particular scene that they had me do that day is a scene where I want to talk to Father Joe in his apartment, and I end up yelling at him. They couldn't have picked the worst scene to start on a day one, and I'd, just flown in from London, and the night before flown back from India. It was wrong.
Don't you quote scripture to me. What are you doing here? What are you afraid of?
This week, I walked down the hallway 15 bloody times. They couldn't have slid one of those in on my first day. But so, no, it was right into persecuting and saving and yelling and all that kind of stuff.
They were your words. I don't know why I said. You said them
to my face!
All I ever wanted was to serve him.
And I just couldn't, I felt like I was on another planet. I thought, Chris was saying stuff to me and it was like nothing, it was like he was talking gibberish. Nothing was landing, nothing was making sense. I felt like I didn't know who I was or what I was or what I was doing, and I have no idea how that scene turned out. So, audience members, when you're watching it, be kind.
What was it you were praying for in there, sir?
For the salvation of my immortal soul.
And do you think God hears your prayers?
Do you think he hears yours?
I didn't bugger 37 altar boys.
Oh, that's a colorful way of putting it.
I have another word if you'd like.
I'm sure you do.
As soon as the writer-director, Chris Carter, told me about the guy, I thought, ooh, oh, I must do that and horrify my family. You know, my friends will never speak to me again. It's wonderful. But it was even worse than that because he said, when he met me, I wrote this for you in mind. And then when I saw who the character was, I thought, well, how did you make the leap from Billy Connolly to this guy? And it was the weirdest thing. His friend had met me in Mexico. Chris Carter's friend had met me in the middle of the night and walking along the street in Mexico. I was down there fishing and he was on holiday or something, and told him, and it just got something in his mind and started to write the character for me, which is kind of bizarre in the extreme.
Bob.
Are we getting warm?
You tell us.
There was nothing to discuss about the script because when we met, I hadn't seen it. And he just told me roughly what I was the kind of man I was going to be playing. And he gave me his copy of the script. They didn't have a copy for me because you don't get a copy on this show. I was in Los Angeles. He gave me it to fly back to New York with and a FedEx envelope, all addressed. So when I finished it, I had to put it in and put it in the
We knew going in that people were going to be wanting to know what was going on in the movie, and we knew there'd be a lot of attempts to find out. But to us, it's sort of like opening your presents before Christmas morning. It's tempting, you know, and part of you wants to do it, but really most of you doesn't want to do it. It's really spoiling the fun. And we want to keep the fun. It's just good showmanship. It's part of our job as producers, is to keep that element of surprise.
And I think also it was important throughout the creation of the movie, from, say, a year ago to right now, for that mystery idea not to be public, in that it's copyable. You know, once you have that idea, you can envision a story around it. And Chris, very rightly, didn't want to see his big movie idea on Law and Order, you know, a week before the movie came out.
Cut. Very nice.
Cut.
One fix on that, please.
One more.
None of our agents or managers have read the script. They don't know. At the studio, there were only 3 copies, 3 hard copies, and they're locked in a safe.
It's not the people that you give the script to that are going to leak the story. It's their friends, their family. It's the people who see it sitting on the coffee table that are going to, when you walk out of the room, start leafing through the script, and that's usually who coughs it up.
We didn't let anybody have a script. I mean, nobody. And when David and Jillian first read the script, we hand-delivered it to them and sat there waiting. We waited at David Duchovny's pool in Malibu while he read the script, and then we took it away from him.
Well, I had a fucking gun to my head when I read it. It was like, you have to give it back. You know, no, seriously. There was a guy sitting out front of my house when they dropped the script off to me, and I had to read it for 4 hours and give it back to him. So he had to bring it back to the studio.
I was working, strangely, at the time, and so because they only gave me about 12 hours to read it, I was kind of reading it piecemeal in between shooting, and then I had to send it back.
I was flown to the top of a mountain because Chris was afraid that if I was sitting in my apartment that somebody might be able to read it through the window. So he arranged for a helicopter to take me to the top, the highest point. because I was on vacation, and so we did. And I waited there, and he waited outside while I was sitting in the helicopter, and I read it, and then he came in, and we both flew back together. I couldn't hold it together. No, it wasn't that bad. But I did have to read it on his computer while he was sitting in the other room, so that was only a tiny bit of pressure.
It was a little bit of one of those cringy scenarios where, as an actor, you kind of like skip to your part to see if your part's good, because I didn't have time to read everybody else.
Most of the crew never read the script. We just didn't even distribute it to most of the crew. They had to do their jobs not knowing what the movie's about, and they would sort of see the scenes and then realize, oh, I see. But that we went to incredible lengths, which, by the way, made it a little more difficult than it would have been otherwise.
Anybody that read the script, basically, they asked for about a month, and then it was finally approved, and they'd come in and read it in a room that had 3 cameras on them, and it was about a 6x6 room, and then they would sign in and they would sign out, and it was a pretty heavy process.
I got to read the full script, but you had to go into a room under video surveillance and read it. And I've only read it during prep.
From a production point of view, it was a bit painful because during the course of a film, will probably read a script 30 times, and I think I may have read it cover to cover 4 times on this.
Even myself, as the assistant location manager, I was not approved to read the script. My boss, Deborah Bose, had read the script, so any questions I had for her for content I would ask her, and then she would tell me what I needed to know. For example, a permit, if there's going to be guns, then we need to notify the police or notify the municipalities of what we're doing on the street. So that information I got from her, and it was sort of on a need-to-know basis.
I take a lot of photos on set for the continuity purpose, and I have to keep those in the truck, and so we have a binder in the truck, but the binder isn't allowed to be seen by anybody. So if we have a second unit person coming in to show them the picture, I can only give them exactly what they need, and I can't necessarily prepare them for what they're going to have, because I can't tell them what's going to happen in the scene or why they're here or why we're shooting it.
There's a running joke amongst some of us which goes along the lines of, oh, let me check my script. Oh, wait a minute, I don't have one.
I understand the need for it, and I hope we accomplish what we're trying to accomplish by not ruining for people and letting everything out that's going on. But I'm also hopeful that I don't have a lot of these in the rest of my career, because it is a lot more difficult.
I was surprised at how quickly I reconnected with the characters and the world of the X-Files. I think because I'd spent so many years living with the characters of Mulder and Scully, spent so many hours of my professional life thinking about these characters, who they were, what mattered to them, that when I sat down with Chris to revisit them, they were still there in my subconscious mind. And I'd actually missed them. It's a very strange thing, but they're not living people, but in some ways they feel like that. They're alive in my imagination, and I very quickly had strong feelings about where they'd be in their lives, what would matter to them now.
Got it. Very nice.
You all right?
22 Echo, take 2. A mark. Set. And action.
What's up, Doc?
You've become awfully trusting, Mulder. For somebody wanted by the FBI.
Eyes in the back of my head, Scully.
I remember I wrote a scene. I monkeyed with this scene for the longest time. It was easy to write Mulder and Scully and hear the voices again. It was difficult for me to actually, once I put them back in a room together, to work past, I would call it the opening Mulder and Scully introduction, the scene where Scully arrives at a house and Mulder is sitting with his back to her. There are more versions of that scene than I would care to admit. I kept making it silly. I kept making it about nothing, and I was having Mulder crack wise, as he always does, and I wanted him to be funny, but it was beside the point, and in a movie you can't ever be beside the point.
Someone has come forward with some promising evidence.
David Duchovny was, I'd say, probably as responsible as anyone for getting this movie made. He wanted to do it. He campaigned for it. He was enthusiastic about it.
I think they're just happy to have you out of their hair.
Well, that's good, because I am just as happy having them out of mine. The most important demand for me was that this be a standalone, episodic type of a movie, that it wasn't part of the mythology and it wasn't too much of an inside job that people wouldn't be into it who were coming to the show who had never seen it. So this was something that Chris and I had talked about for the years since we'd been planning on doing another movie. I always know that we can make a good show. It's just a matter of whether it can be kind of relevant or viable, like commercially at this point.
I'll tell them your answer.
Cut.
Vancouver's great, and we've been up in Whistler, up there among all the real big snow, up in the ski line there, which was very uncomfortable. You know, we didn't have the Frankenstein boots on like all those skiers. We were creeping around looking for weird stuff in the snow in the middle of the night.
I want you breathing hard, okay? This has been an exertion coming across this field. Everyone should do that. Ron, out there before we roll, I want you to do a drill where everyone runs in a circle.
I got something better. Okay?
Push-ups, I can tell these are coming. Push-ups are coming.
Okay. We all go in together when he calls for shovels?
Shovels, you show up,
right,
and then I'm going to have him tell you where to shovel. Here, you go here.
Okay, I'll point him.
All right? Great.
Okay.
Got it? Exhibit I didn't know, and I didn't know his music, and I think he's done a great job. He's got a lot of strength, and he's really willing to learn and to work. You know, he's really observant, and really, I think he did a great job.
Hey, Mark!
I take it very seriously. You know, I don't go on the merit of being a musician and just getting in like that. I respect the craft of acting and filmmaking. So the more I learn and the more that I have to conduct myself like a traditional actor, the better. You know, I want to learn the ropes. I want to do it the right way.
We need equipment! We need concrete saws and a backhoe!
Where we were shooting north of Whistler was almost intolerable. I brought my baby out to the set and she looked like that thing in that Woody Allen movie where he's like in a flying bubble, where he actually takes off because he's got this huge bubble around him.
And action.
There's not many jobs that, you know, when you get an opportunity to do this, you know, obviously nights are really tough. I like to light them. I don't know, there's something about me that likes to light that stuff. I had a whole system of how to do it at night with snow. I didn't put lights up in the air too much. I wanted to rake the snow because I wanted shadows to come across the ground. I wanted to feel the effect of trees and shadows and not just have lights in the air and balloons and things like that. I wanted to feel this mood that's along, because we had vast places of snow. And it's real snow. I mean, we had it there, and we were in the middle of nowhere.
Poor Bill, especially in this movie, is just presented with so much black. And it's like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. The FBI is in navy and black. It's just such a challenge for a DP to get that much black against that much white. You put, you know, a black wool coat at night and it just disappears. It becomes part of night. And it's why I tried to get a semblance of at least some shine or texture in fabric whenever I could, just so that he would have something to shoot.
'61 Charlie, take 3, Mark.
Set. Background.
Action!
Anything?
I can't reach her. This is a break. It's gonna make sense. I'm feeling it.
You're feeling it, Father. Joe's feeling it. All I'm feeling is my head spinning.
This is a serial case.
Amanda Peet, you know, a great comedian, which she doesn't get to use at all in this film, which I think is one of the reasons she took it. You know, she wanted to play, she wanted to see if she could play kind of like this all-business FBI agent. I think she did a great job.
We're gonna find her. I know it.
Well, she may have to stand in line.
Cut, one more time.
My character is supposed to have feelings for Mulder and feel a connection with him outside the office, so to speak. It's very difficult to have chemistry with David Duchovny because there's just nothing going on there, you know? Anything?
I can't reach her. But it's gonna make sense.
He's a really big diva because he's like, I'm on the X-Files for 9 years and now I'm on Californication and I have 8 Golden Globes and, you know, who are you? So it's a little exhausting, but, you know, it's okay.
I know it.
Well, she may have to stand in line.
Got it, very nice. See you, Mark.
You saw something? You had another vision?
I saw a woman's face, another woman. David Duchovny he's a thinking guy, he's a very intelligent guy. And he's done such an immense amount of work apart from X-Files, you know. He's done a lot of television, a lot of movies now, and he's very bright, and his mother is Scottish. Well, I didn't know that, you know. His father's Russian, his mother's Scottish. And so we talk about Scotland a lot.
It was always a pleasure in between takes to just be talking to Billy, to listen to Billy, to talk to Billy. He's an engaged mind, you know, and he's a restless mind, and he's very restless mentally, and it's fun to be around that.
And back around.
We had a scene yesterday and we had to stare at each other for a long, long time, which was quite difficult sometimes, you know, apart from the fact that you want to laugh all the time. I get it at funerals and everything. I get this overwhelming desire to laugh sometimes. Excuse me. I think it's fear. We did it last night and I was very comfortable with it. You know, he's a very comfortable guy to act with.
So an actor relaxes, an actor prepares.
It sounds like a gay love story, you know. You can hear the music. I looked David in the eye. His mother's Scottish, you know. I could hear the bagpipes in the background. Oh, David.
You know, we're not staying here because it's too late and we're in a mental hospital and we've been shooting in Pemberton and in the snow where none of us are sane anymore. We've all really lost our minds. It's like a communal The Shining.
Well, this is an old mental hospital. It was opened in the First World War for people with shell shock. I think they now call that post-traumatic stress disorder. It used to be called shell shock, and they had a wonderful expression in Scotland for that. They said you were bomb happy. And people come home from the war, and they look a bit cuckoo, and they say, "Ah, he's bomb happy." Isn't it weird? People are more sensitive. Well, I'm not, but most people are. I belong in here. It can't be true. I don't believe this. I had the luxury of being given the script on the first day, but I had to give it back again, and I've forgotten. It was a long, sunny day many months ago in Los Angeles, the last time I saw the whole script. So I keep losing the plot, and I have to go to the director and say, why am I here? What am I doing? I don't get this.
It's been very complicated to shoot out of sequence and to break down and figure out where, well, for me anyway, to break down where Scully is at any given time, what are her feelings, what are her thoughts, what's happened in this area of the storyline, what's happening in this area of the storyline. It's been interesting. It's actually been a lot more challenging than I had anticipated.
Get out of here! You sick bastard!
I was... This boy is your patient.
Who told you that?
No one.
Then what are you doing in this room?
I've been here. It's like working for the CIA or something. In the morning, you get a wee script, a little wee one. They call it sides, and it's your words for the day. Well, on here, we get them in the red, black writing. You can hardly read the bloody thing. You're just trying to see your words and your name, your character names on every page in case it sneaks to the outside world, they'll know who did it. As a matter of fact.
I don't get my sides on red paper because I can't memorize lines on red paper. I tried for the first couple days, and so I have to hand back my my white sides. I'm the only person with white sides.
You have to look after them. They're collected back again in case the word sneaks out to all those freaks on the internet and all that. You know, going, oh, I can put it on tonight. All those guys who wear weatherproof clothes in their bedroom, you know, waiting for night to fall. I love you, every one of you. I love you. I didn't mean it as an insult.
We shredder's awesome. We shred as much as we can. We shred call sheets, sides, anything that goes out that has any information that might give out the story. Every day, I just print them out on set, hand them out in the morning. We have a safe. We have 2 safes in various trailers, and we, lock it all up at the end of the night and hand it out in the morning. And there's about 10 people that get the information every day. Department heads and cast.
Chris and I came up with some ideas, and I came up with some ideas about how I, as the script supervisor, technically or theoretically, I'm the only person who holds the script on set. So there was some concern there. So we did some things with my script that I've never done before.
We've gone to extremes. We have things like call sheets that come out every day that tell crew what we're doing the next day. We purposely have information on the call sheets that isn't real because our call sheets have been copied onto the internet. So now we're careful.
Now everyone knows about Frankie and Larry. That was leaked. So certainly my script says Frankie and Larry. And but there are other things. They will not find out a thing in my script because we've changed it.
I'm in the movie Done One, AKA, but I'm not allowed to discuss it. If I do discuss it, then I'd have to kill you.
In pre-production, my job was a little difficult because we were trying to clear everything and get product placement, but we weren't allowed to tell anybody what movie it was for.
What do you think this movie is? What's it called?
Done One. Yeah. Done One. Yeah.
I've had people, when I've said that I was on Done One, they go, oh, cool. Hey, have you heard anything about the X-Files movie? That was always a good one. It's like, no, I still don't know anything about the X-Files movie.
We hear about all the different people have read certain things, and sometimes the cast members will come and say, well, this is the part that I read. I think, oh, okay, I didn't read that part. So I'm not really sure if you have a fake piece and I have a real piece. So I just hope that whatever we do, we get together and we manage to make it work.
Can you tell me anything about what's going on, or what is the movie?
What do you mean by secrecy?
Have you seen any famous actors? Or?
There's a few, yeah.
Anyone you recognize from anything?
I was trying to get a finger on it. I couldn't quite place it. No, not too sure.
Who's the director? Have you heard from?
A person by the name of. You know what? I can't remember. That's pretty bad, isn't it? I have no clue.
Rich Tracer.
Rich Tracer. That's right. Yeah. Rich Tracers. That's it. That's the director's name. Yes, Rich Tracers. Yes, I've met him. I've made him a few coffees, and he loves his coffees once or twice a day, and I do that for him.
Part of the excitement was using the different name and not disclosing to even some of our employees what they were working on. And I remember we were doing that bigger chase in downtown, and we had hired several production assistants to guard back alley streets, roads, etc. And someone came up to me and said, I heard X-Files is in town, and he had absolutely no idea that he was working on the X-Files. And that's how much the secret has been right from the start. And it's kind of fun. So it's been working. Some people are figuring it out, some aren't. And obviously, when he saw David Duchovny running by, he should have figured it out, but he didn't.
So you're looking forward to seeing the movie when it comes out?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very cool movie. Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us about this movie done well?
Not really, no. No, that's all I know. I can't really tell you anymore. If I knew more, I would tell you.
There were several movies I watched in anticipation of doing this, and one of them was Munich, because I thought Steven Spielberg had done such a beautiful job directing that movie. It really is a tour de force. You could go to film school on that movie alone. We got very lucky with not only using the Super 35 format, but also with the weather that we got to shoot in, because we got extreme weather, which is what we were looking for. So the combination of that beautiful film look and the weather we got, we really put, I think, millions of dollars on screen beyond what was in the budget, which we didn't have. We didn't have many millions of dollars in the budget. We used the Genesis for part of a chase sequence. They were perfect for what we needed them for. We had done some tests with the Genesis and found that we didn't like it for some of the other things that we were going to be doing, particularly the snow sequences.
You got a four of the straight.
I'm a big fan of high def. I think it's for certain situations, for the look of the film or whatever you want to do, it has to be the right place at the right thing for it. I just felt it wasn't the right for all the way through. There are certain times that it would be good, but obviously nobody can afford to have both packages. And especially when in the beginning of the movie we had like 2 weeks of running through downtown Vancouver, and a lot of it was whether or not we wanted to do a Genesis, and we decided to eventually go on film. But am I supposed to continue with the story?
Yes. The night before we're going to start filming, we're to shoot in Vancouver, in the city, a chase sequence. Chris calls me and says, I've been thinking about the Genesis camera, and I'm really thinking it'd be better for the city stuff. And he's the director, and I'm the producer, and I want the director to have what he wants, and plus I agree with him. I do think it'll look better. So I say, okay, let me find out. And I hang up, and I'm thinking about Bill Rowe, our esteemed director of photography, and how many shades of red his face is going to turn when he finds out that we're wanting to shoot Genesis with less than 24 hours notice. So I call and I get his cell phone, and I leave him a very, as unalarming a message as I possibly can.
When you listen to this message, this is all I have to say about working on the X-Files movie, and this is Frank Spotness leaving this message the day before shooting, 7 o'clock at night, Sunday night.
Bill, it's Frank. It's Sunday night. I know this is late in the game, but I just wanted to talk to you creatively about whether Chris could use the Genesis for the chase. Whether it's too late is another question, but whether you think aesthetically and it would work in terms of cutting it in with all the film, stuff like that. So give me a call if you get a chance. Okay, thanks.
Well, the impact was, first it was, are you kidding me? And then it was like, okay, sure, let's try it. And I knew that the Panavision in Canada had it, Jeff Flowers had it. I knew they were here because we tested them and I knew they were around. So I think I disturbed his dinner plans that night and said, hey. So anyway, actually it worked out great. We started with film that day, and then that night when we eventually got to go running, it was available, and we did it. We had it for a couple weeks.
Hey! Stop him! Take a look at this.
We'd all worked that Saturday, and the convention was on a Saturday afternoon, so we got on a plane early Saturday morning. I had not gone to sleep. I think I'd slept 15 minutes on the plane, and we were literally whisked into the convention center, and as we're walking in, the X-Files trailer is playing, and I get to see it sort of from the wings, and I see the images come up, and I see the way they react to them, and I see Gillian's face come up, and the crowd goes wild, and I see David's face come up, and the crowd goes wild.
You know, I've interacted with fans forever, so I know that they love the show. But when they get all together like that, and there's 4,000 of them or however many, it's kind of breeds this kind of hysteria, which only made sense to me like if I had a guitar in my hand, which I didn't, and I can't play anyway, but it felt like that kind of energy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Spotheads. Please welcome Chris Carter. Gillian Anderson.
Frank came back from WonderCon and said, it was like we were the Beatles. There was a little pause and he said, I was Ringo.
It's been a long time since we've sat in that particular scenario before. It was fun.
I thought that it was going to be really easy to just kind of step right into it. I just sucked. I sucked for a good 48 hours, I think.
Maybe you should tell them what scenes you sucked in.
Writing the names Mulder and Scully, which I hadn't written for 6 years, was like the most natural sort of keyboard stroke, as you can imagine.
So I'm wondering if there are any kind of personal, maybe narratives that you grew up with in childhood that didn't get to be explored?
I always thought that Mulder should, I don't think we ever did this, autoerotic asphyxiation.
I think part of the reason this has been such a pleasure for us is that we've been freed from the pressure of having to do 20 to 24 hours of television every year, freed from the pressure of having to squeeze a movie between 2 seasons of the series, and free to just tell the best story we could think of about these 2 people and where they are in their lives.
You know, people have asked Chris and I, and Frank and Gillian, of course, you know, do you still think there's an audience out there for the show? And, no. But honestly, I mean, I know it's a cheap applause line that I'm going for here, but personally, it feels very nice to see you guys here and to know, you know, that we thought you were still out there, and we're convinced now that you are.
They have an enormous fan base who expects the same surprises they got from the series. And that was one of the wonderful things about the series, is you never knew what was coming at you from week to week. So it's been important to Chris and Frank and everybody else concerned, finally, as difficult as it is, to keep the lid on the thing.
Action!
We realized very early on that we weren't going to be able to do that there was too much interest and too many people showing up with cameras and video cameras, and then it became call sheets and people talking to people who were working on the movie, or city council meetings approving permits, and things were leaking out. And so then our task became to cloud people's understanding of what was going on. And that sort of evolved into not just clouding their understanding of what was going on, but putting out dubious information. The risk was, of course, that our dubious information would be intriguing to some people, that they'd like these false plot threads that we put out there and be disappointed if the movie didn't have them in it, ultimately. So we really were careful to put out stuff that we thought nobody would be disappointed if that ended up not being true. So the first thing we did, and actually we did this the very first night, is we staged a photograph of David wearing an FBI jacket. And of course, David never wears an FBI jacket in the movie, doesn't work at the FBI. And we discovered pretty early on that it's like casting fishing lines and you don't always catch a fish. And so that FBI photo went out there, but for some reason, it just didn't get any traction. Like nobody paid attention to it, nobody talked about it. It got picked up a couple sites that nobody seemed to notice that he was wearing an FBI jacket. Then we hit upon the idea of taking a more drastic step which was actually having Bill Terazakis, our creature effects guy, bring out a werewolf head that he'd done for another show, and just have him show it to Chris on set, and have our set photographer take a picture with the long lens as if she were paparazzi. And that got tons of traffic, and everybody went crazy over that and really believed it was about werewolves. And the reason we thought of that idea is because before the movie started production, somebody had gone on, I think, Ain't It Cool News, and said they'd run into Chris Carter in a bar about a year ago, and he had told them over drinks that this movie was going to be about werewolves. And so we thought, well, that's beautiful, because that's completely bogus, and it's planted way back in the past. And so we'll just build on that misinformation, and hopefully somebody will connect the dots. Now, I don't think anybody ever did connect the dots to that Ain't It Cool News post. But anyway, that's where we got the idea of werewolves. Somebody else had planted that misinformation. Then about 3 or 4 weeks later, we'd been hit with a lot of leaks of call sheets. When we were shooting in Pemberton, it was just call sheets every day. And the call sheets have little one-line descriptions of what we're shooting that day. And people were figuring out things about the movie that we didn't want them to figure out, like the fact that Amanda Peet's character is killed, the fact that Billy Connolly is playing a priest.
There's a lot of call sheets that have seemed to have made their way onto the internet, and you can see just in the spelling mistakes and the way that they're formatted that they're not even call sheets from any production I've ever been involved with. And some of them have, which has been kind of, you know, disheartening, because it is a family, it's a crew, and you kind of get a little upset with people that might want to do that.
And then to cap it all off, somebody, I don't know who worked on the movie, talked to one of the websites and revealed that the werewolf photos were staged. And so that was, you know, disappointing to us and harmful to our cause. So we started issuing call sheets that were specific to target things, saying Father Joe talks to his daughters. Whitney is at the hospital being treated by Scully. The scenes that don't exist in the movie, but to the extent anybody paid attention to these other reports, they would counteract. And those call sheets met with varying degrees of success. Again, it's like casting a line. Sometimes people pick them up and sometimes they didn't. And then we put out, to really muddy the waters, because people had discredited the werewolf photos, a photoshopped image of David Duchovny that Bill Terazakis had done on his own. It was his own idea, showing him as a full-on werewolf. People were convinced it couldn't be real because the photo that Bill had used was a publicity photo from Californication. Now, that had never occurred to us as a reason to discredit it, because you would do that all the time. You would take an existing photo of your actor and Photoshop it. But for some reason, people thought, oh, it can't be real because it was a Californication still. But by that point, we'd achieved our goal, which was nobody knew what to believe. And everyone was saying, you know, nothing is trustworthy. And then people were on to the idea that we were putting out fake information. And they were sort of scratching their heads on the internet, like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Should we be angry or should we enjoy this?
It's amazing with the internet, with the X-Files news and everything, how the information can be so current. Like, they'll get information halfway through our day, and they'll know, seems this is sometimes know more than us about what time we're gonna wrap and stuff like that. At least they think they know. But the whole thing, to me, is pretty hilarious, and I don't take any of it very seriously. So
I am not one of those people that feel compelled to spill the beans anyway. So, you know, it only becomes a problem when people become really annoying, and you just have to go, I am not going to tell you anything, so just give it up.
I don't know how everybody else has done it, but it's easy for me. You know, you just say no.
Everybody wants to know what's going on, but you know, you want to wait to see it. I mean, that's the whole point is, you know, I had some friends of mine because they saw that trailer and they, God, you didn't tell me this. And I was going, you know what, just let it be. It's going to be great. Enjoy the ride. I mean, that's the whole best thing about it is be surprised, have fun.
It's been good. I mean, we're now almost 50 days into this shoot as we speak, and we're actually setting up the final scene between Mulder and Scully right now. We just rehearsed it. Felt natural and normal. We worked out, hopefully, some of the problems. There was a dialogue flip that we wanted to make, or we actually imagined making, and now we get here today, and now we can't imagine making it. So it's been as always, a collaborative effort.
Scully? Why would he say that to you? Don't give up.
In true X-Files fashion, it's not a relationship movie. You know, it's a thriller. It's an action movie. It's a horror movie, whatever you want to call it. So the relationship scenes, the scenes between me and Gillian that deal with something other than furthering the case or propelling the action forward, the emotional spine of the movie, I felt so important that sometimes, you know, it brings more pressure into those scenes, just from me wanting them to be special or perfect or evocative or, you know, strong enough to carry through the next 20 minutes of action, you know, to emotionally engage a viewer in this relationship, and then drop it for the next half hour so we can chase some shit around.
I think both of us are very interested in those scenes being not just accurate in terms of who these characters are and where they are in this particular place in their lives, but that we bring all the history with us into the room, plus the history that we are making in the moment as of this script, which is quite heavy duty, though it happens between the two of us in this film. And the balance between the past and the present is quite intense in this film. And you know, we've shot stuff that happened at the end before, you know, as you do. And I just hope that, you know, it all makes sense when it's all put together.
You know, they have very specific feelings about their characters, and I have to say they're always right. They've helped shape Mulder and Scully from the very beginning.
And cut. Where's cut?
One of our mantras on the X-Files was, it's only as scary as it seems real. And so, you know, we never really consider ourselves a horror show, and I don't really consider this a horror movie, but there are elements that are horrific. There's a Frankenstein aspect to the story, and we needed a lot of prosthetics, a lot of convincing body parts and bodies. And there's nothing supernatural about it. You know, everybody knows what a body looks like, and it had to look absolutely real. And so we turned to Bill Terzakis, whom we'd worked with on the Lone Gunman TV series, who did really disturbingly lifelike prosthetic work.
This film has probably been the most secret project, is what we call it here in the shop, that I've ever worked on. Whenever we would bring something on set that was one of the hush-hush projects, Chris would arrange to have the majority of the crew removed from the set, so only a selected few were there too. It was pretty crazy.
Action, Gurney.
We're shooting right now the end of the movie. And so what we wanted to do was preemptively put out a false report about what the end of the movie is, so that if the real ending of the movie leaks out, this false ending will already be out there.
Stop what you're doing and back away. Shut up! OG! Shut up!
We had a report from set leaked out saying that the ending is Scully finds Mulder in a hospital where he's disappeared and cures him of being a werewolf, she thinks. But then the shocker twist X-Files ending is she hasn't cured him at all, he's still a werewolf, and that's the end of the movie. And so we put that out there, and it was curious because for over a day nothing appeared. And it went out to many sites and nobody ran with it. And I think it may be because people are already now so suspect of anything. And then finally it appeared just tonight, you know, in the middle of the night here on a website. And it's a guy complaining about the disinformation and saying he's got this report but doesn't know whether to believe it. So now it's out there, which is what we wanted. We just wanted it out there. It's okay if somebody's saying it may not be true, but at least it's feeding the mistrust of everything that's out there.
Callum! Вырубай его, скорее! Чё?
It's been like really good with everybody. Like, and I mean that sounds like the corny cliche horseshit thing that you say, but this is unlike any other set. My manager was by the other day, Elizabeth Hodgson, and she said, "Oh, this feels great.
This doesn't feel like the movies. This feels like, I mean, and it's been like a very up and ooh, and very odd and wonderful and expansive and great in lots of ways, but it doesn't have a very pressed, set feel.
I love Callum, Keith Rennie. He's an interesting guy, and I like him very much personally, and I really like him as an actor. And apparently he's a very good golfer, according to him. And Mitch Pileggi's back, and it's great to see Mitch.
And Mitch!
Show me your hands! Show me your hands!
To be honest with you, there's not many times that you get off at 5 in the morning and go, hey, that was pretty cool. You know, and it's only happened on X-Files. And I remember that when you do stuff like that and you look back and you get in the car and you kind of, that wasn't bad.
I need you to take care of that.
Coming back together again after time has passed, you know, it felt exciting. It felt like it was a choice that we were making and one that we were enthusiastic about.
That's it for Gillian Anderson, Wrap Show.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being so wonderful. It's good to see you all again. Stop filming me.
Set. And action.
Look up. Visita mi canal.
All right, gates are good. And that is show wrap on David and Kelvin.
Well, thank you. Enjoy yourselves for the next week. Hey, where's everybody going? Hey, come on. I'm really hurt.
The trick now is in finishing the movie, where the movie will be touched by a lot more people, a lot more hands on it, more possibilities for exposure, whether we can keep it a secret from now, which is early March, to July 25th, which is when the movie will premiere.
No question about it. It's the shortest post by far of any show I've done in 15 years. It is a challenge, and I think it's predominantly Chris's insight into what's going on that allows it to even be possible. And he's so comfortable with the characters. He has such a good idea of what he wants to do with it that I think that's the only thing that allows the post process to be even close to being as quick as it's going to have to be.
Chris wants us to work on it before he sees it. So I'm thinking, like, he finishes shooting a week from Saturday, and Rich and I were just talking about taking the week to try and put the assembly together for him. That's why we're thinking it might be nice to have some music in there by that point, and some more sound effects. And
yeah. Richard, have you had any instinctual motivations towards any particular type of music or anything that jumped out at you and said, well, this is what I would, you know?
Well, no, I really haven't, except that, you know, I have this old feeling sometimes that silence is the best piece of music.
Okay. I love this guy. Well, we like you.
No, seriously, I mean, sometimes, you know, just that.
Yeah.
It can create its own tension. Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at this and then we can discuss it no longer.
There's something there with the shadow houses.
I'm on my way.
all. Definitely you.
Well, that's a good start, I think.
Let him go! Let him go!
That stick is really prevalent throughout this whole movie.
Sure. Yeah.
And they really like it, and maybe there's a way to make
there's
that
piece of music from There Will Be Blood, where I'm sure this guy, the composer, got like 100 people off the street and gave them like primitive percussion instruments, and they're just going chunk, and it's never together. It's always sloppy, but there's something wonderfully primitive about it. You know, this almost sounds like that. Maybe that could be
the percussive element about it.
Yeah.
I think there's a theme possibility here, Mr. Seth. The first time we see Samantha, it is about saving the girl, right?
What was it you were praying for in there, sir?
For the salvation of my immortal soul.
I'm chasing monsters in the dark. I think you've done all they've asked of you here, too.
Are we still in music all through here?
I think so, yeah. Maybe
Probably comes out, fades out in air.
Headquarters music.
Now this.
It's a great shot.
This is pretty eerie if you just almost the nakedness of this.
Yes, absolutely. And then you can hear the soft pad of his footsteps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be music here.
Yeah, this is nothing where it's no music or it's a tone. It's just, very, very busy.
Yeah.
Maybe this wind is great.
I'm okay. I think I'm okay. I'm fine.
That's perfect. Just kidding.
Tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Chris had a pretty clear idea of what he wanted to accomplish. There's thousands of people involved, but and so in the credit there's 300 or 400 people, and so he wanted to have a photograph of everybody with their credit, which is pretty daunting when you hear that, but at the same time sounded fabulous. He was photographing during the shooting of the entire film, so he had a little over 3,000 photos that we just started going through.
A lot of stuff was temp, so we started with what we had, the temp music, and ground up. We had all this footage, and we started to cut the footage together to try to make the background itself look interesting, as if there was nothing else going on. And then after we kind of had that solidified, we started working with the title cards and how the title cards would fit in, and just making the title cards now look good on top of that footage without anything else. So we're just kind of building a little pyramid of how to make this better and better and better. Then our next step was to put the photos in, thousands and thousands of photos.
You don't just want a bunch of pictures up there, and you don't want to look like a yearbook, and it's not a bloopers reel. It had to have design to it. It had to have something to it, which was, boy. When I was looking through Chris's photos with him, is we were in iPhoto. And so when you're in events, you drag the little thing back forward and the photos flash. We both kind of went, oh, that's cool, seeing them. But I like when it looks like that flashing. And it also gives you a scope of like the volume and the number of people. I mean, it's just, it comes across as just thousands of people working on the film.
We were very strategic in the visual effects work that there is in the film. There's a lot of work with snow. And that's the bulk of the work. But Matt Beck, he's been working with the X-Files for 15 years, from season 1, and is another person with incredible taste. And amazing shorthand. So Matt came in, he directed some of the second unit stuff involving CG and green screen, scenes with Amanda Peet. And John Wash, who also worked with us in the X-Files, is working with Matt on this film. So there's a lot of comfort and trust.
This was not ever designed to be a visual effects movie. The world being the way it is now, a non-visual effects movie has between 350 and 400 shots in it. And the shot count went up pretty substantially over the course of, well, production and then post-production. The technology's improved to the point where the effect of visual effects is more than just, the traditional thing, creating an environment or a moment that couldn't really happen. There's all kinds of stuff that visual effects is used to do. The story called for large portions of the film for it to be snowing. There were a lot of shots which were shot really like wide masters in brilliant sunshine, in which we, A, had to remove the sunshine, make it look like it wasn't sunny, B, make it look like it was snowing heavily, C, while we're at it, bring down a cloud layer to give it kind of an oppressive feel, and D, at the same time, have the effect of cutting off some jagged tops of the Canadian Rockies, because that's not what West Virginia is supposed to look like. And sometimes there was practical snow that was moving in an inappropriate direction, so we had to deal with that. There was another sequence in which Mulder's car gets attacked and pushed over the side of the hill. And there were a lot of shots in that, and most of them, it was actually clear weather and no snow. And so there was, it's like, geez, that's a lot of shots to add snow to. How about this? What if we remove snow from the 10 shots in which it's really snowing, and then we can play that sequence without snow? And I suggested that, and they went for it. On one level, maybe that wasn't such a great idea, because it turns out it was like harder than I thought it would be to take the snow out of those shots. But we did. Take the snow out, we did. And it was still less work overall. When things got really hectic, because there were so many shots, we did farm out work to other vendors, to Illusion Arts and Hybrid and Frantic Films, and they all did good work for us. It was cool because, everybody's snow was a little bit different, but we were able to kind of make them the same, and sometimes we would kind of honor somebody's idea for how it should look. It was like, yeah, that works.
Actually cutting a mat for her so that I can count her on top of the rebar. This is the original plate with this mechanism here to sort of like drop her down. And the first thing that I have to do is remove all of this rigging. And what I decided to do, because the bottom of the rig looks really cool with these like natural holes, I just popped rebar in there. Took rebar like this, and then with a mat, and just composited it in there. It looks something like this. And what I have to do is, we'll extract the green, of course, but we kind of have to time warp it so that it looks like she's, falling faster. Her arms are flailing a little bit more. So let's say we do, 8 frames. We'll condense the first 20 into 8, and then we'll see what that feels like. Yeah, you get that feeling of weight and everything, so that helps out a lot.
Hold on, I know I don't have to say this, but it could have been you once, or me. The truth is, I worry about you and the effects of long-term isolation.
I'm fine here. I'm happy as a clam.
Does he bite the sunflower seed immediately if we stay in this take? If you play the daily?
Here's the continuation.
Bearded clam.
What if you get out before that, though?
Yeah.
You just haven't bite it. right? I'd rather just stay with him crunching and then go back to her saying, okay, I'll give him your answer.
And we'll put that into the R version.
Chris was going to tell me, he says, you know, I will have notes for you each day. We will have conference and talk about what I want. That never happened. It's like Jim shooting Titanic. You don't have time to do those. I just went ahead and started putting the film together. And basically, up until the very last weekend, I was right behind them. And they were shooting a lot of film. They had 2 and 3 cameras a lot of the times, you know. Now, let's face it. It was an assembly, but it was the story, it was the pieces that are needed to make the things work. And it did work.
Hey, yeah, fine here. I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah, we go back to it twice.
That's what I was trying to avoid.
Twice.
Yeah.
I was trying to cut.
We should go right to
I
her.
honestly think that it's better in.
You want the. You want.
I think it's separated. It's better.
All right. Never mind. Richard. Go back to what it was. Undo, please.
I'll tell you why.
Because they're 2 separate beats.
Yes.
And then Frank came in to work with me. I find him terrific. But let's face it, they've done how many episodes of X-Files? But I find him very, very, very good and very easy to work with.
Can we head trim the hand coming up to the mouth so that it happens faster? Good idea. Think the whole thing could be a little tighter?
Now you get into the fine bits of it, and it's about refining, and it's about getting their view for looking. And I go, oh, really? Oh, that's a little bit different. And I have to respect their, you know, I'm not some god that just can come in here and just start cleaning, say that, but just start seeing a point of view. Huh? Yeah, I trim.
I still want to get his eyes to go to the picture, though.
And then I've worked with Chris a bit. Now, this is his project. He is the director. He's the king. So he wants to try. He wants to experiment along the line. And sometimes, you know, they're like a little apart on their thoughts.
Just say, you know, before my understanding of it was the door closes, leaving the picture of Samantha in his eye line. And now that's still true, but he looks down and then back at the picture of Samantha. Is that better than just having?
No, he doesn't look down. He's looking down at the beginning.
Yeah, is that better than just having it be like the door closed and now?
No,
he's
I like it. I think he's thoughtful at first.
You know what I'm saying? The cutting pattern reveals the picture of Samantha, and now it's like we're looking. I don't know. It's an idea lost to me, but it still works. It's not the same idea.
I don't think
The voice of this movie is still very clearly the voice that Chris defined in the pilot 15 years ago. But Chris and I, this is 14 years we've been working together, and it's stimulating. We don't always agree, and actually that's the best time in the partnership when we don't agree, because then we end up arriving at something that is something neither one of us would have come up with on our own. And that's very satisfying. In this movie in particular, we had a lot of arguments about this movie and about what it means and what we wanted to say, because there's a strong religious theme running through this movie, and Scully's Catholicism plays in it. And Chris is a person of faith, and I'm not. And I didn't want to make a movie that I didn't agree with, that I thought was nonsense, you know, or religious claptrap. And ultimately what this movie says, I believe and he believes. And that was really exciting for me. That was really exciting as a writer to arrive at that.
Let's record we'll do the plastic uncover, the frozen arm.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
That's really good, by the way. Really, really good.
Yet again.
Well, it's 4 weeks since we finished filming the movie, and we are rushing to complete our first cut for the studio to review. So we locked picture on that last week, and now we are dubbing sound, temp dub of the sound. The studio will see the movie for the first time this week, and we'll get their notes and thoughts, and then we have another 3 weeks to finish editing the picture. It is that airbag, you want like the sound of his face slapping against it and like the explosion of the bag coming out of the studio. It just feels like a hiss. Well, we had a big leak on Friday, and as luck would have it, and actually this was lucky, Chris and I were in New York City for New York Comic Con and doing a ton of press with New York media. So we were up early. You know, we were up at 4 a.m. LA time because we were in New York City, and I was able to see online immediately that there had been a leak, a summary of the plot. And I didn't know where it came from, but it was on a website. So I immediately called all the publicity people in New York City, and I wrote to the writer of the X-Files novel because it looked like it was jacket copy for a book. They immediately went to work before anybody in LA was even awake, pulling it down from as many sites as possible, which they managed to do. They got it off most sites, but there's still a couple they couldn't get it off of. It wasn't disastrous, I'd say, because there was nothing in it that really is going to ruin the movie for anybody. And really what was in that summary is information that's going to be easily discerned from the trailer that's going to be, you know, in theaters in about 6 weeks' time anyway. But it was more than we wanted to say at this point.
Mulder, it's me. I need to talk to you right away. I need you to call me as soon as you get this, okay?
The last thing I want to do is piss off fans of the show and people who are excited about the movie. But I do want to preserve the element of surprise. And I do think it's better to go to a movie not knowing what you're going to see. I mean, if you know what's going to happen in the movie, you can't help it but sit there and just sort of tick off, oh yeah, this. It's like trailers for movies that reveal everything. I hate that. I want to go and enjoy the movie and be surprised, or reviews that reveal everything. I hope people aren't pissed off. I hope people aren't aggrieved at us for doing this, and that at the end of the day, they'll understand and appreciate it was in the interest of protecting the experience of seeing the movie for the first time.
Hollywood is basically a business where most things fail. If the pilot gets picked up 12 episodes, it's a major achievement to make it that far. To make it a year is, it's against the odds. To make it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Most TV shows don't last beyond 5 years, 6 years. To go 9 years, I never imagined it. And even in the doing of it, I never had a good sense of us being a hit show, because you're working so hard, you're so involved in it that you never get a sense of your own success. Only in taking time away do you sort of get the perspective, and that perspective also is, I think, what is brought to this movie, because we had to step away and come back fresh. It's an unbelievable ride. It's brought me a great creative success. I got to do and write exactly what I wanted to do and write for nearly 10 years of my life. A luxury that most people don't get in entertainment. and it's given me an opportunity to do what I want to do now, and I'm doing it. I'm doing this X-Files movie. Greener rather than it feels to me like those blacks went.
Here?
Yeah.
I really worked my butt off on it, and I knew I had to do that. This was not like, just because we knew each other and we were old close friends and really comfortable, it wasn't like a pass, just do anything and it'll be fine. It was, you know, a combination of incredible, you know, this wonderful reunion, but also, oh man, after reading the script, I knew this had to be special.
Today, we have a small orchestra of only 60, which is still pretty wonderful, where we're doing musical orchestral effects.
This was really fun for me because I felt particularly comfortable with that kind of music. There was no music written for these sessions, and I would stand in front of the orchestra and I would just say, okay, now the strings go like, yeah, and the brass go, bah, and you know, just verbal instructions, basically to make these sort of noise-like effects. And the piano, this guy showed up with with all kinds of things. One of the things he had was silly putty that he drew into a long string-like thing, and he plopped it on the strings of the piano and made an amazing muted, weird sound. And he had dimes and plucking the strings in a certain way. It was really cool. And those things I used, I sampled them and put them in my synthesizer and laid them on top of the live orchestra at times. So a lot of that Frankenstein stuff and a lot of the scary stuff was that effects orchestra plus the real orchestra. I remember walking into a restaurant with a friend, dingling. It's Chris and a cell phone, and I'm in the parking lot of the restaurant, and he's into it. He wants to talk about it. And he said, you know, the main thing I'm looking for in this score is a love story with spiritual and religious overtones. And I said, man, I was hoping you'd say that, you know, because a lot of people can make a lot of noise and bang and crash, but the heart and soul of this script and this movie is a love story.
Could there be another X-Files movie? Sure. I've always thought the X-Files was really a perfect storytelling vehicle. The believer-skeptic dynamic is just a great dialectic for telling stories. And the idea that there might be something more to the world than we understand, I think is sort of endless. And you've got two actors who are fantastic in their roles and have this amazing magical chemistry together. So sure, there could be another. I think we always try for great. We're always trying for great. And I've said this to writers, you know, younger writers I've worked with. It's like, aim for great. Aim for the best thing ever. And if you're lucky, you'll land it good. And I feel pretty confident we're landed good.
How do I feel now? I don't know. I have no idea how people are going to respond to the movie. We've taken a chance. We've changed something that was a winner in this series. And while I don't think we've changed it arbitrarily, I think we've changed it because it represents a natural evolution of the characters and their relationship. It's going to come as a big surprise, something of a shocker, and I hope it works in a good way. Ford is always they were the go-to guys for us at the end of the series. They were a big sponsor for us, and here they came through with hybrid cars, which is fantastic because transportation is so much of your budget and so much of your energy is spent in transportation. So they provided hybrid cars for us, for the actors, and for me to and from set, and also anyone picked up from the airport was picked up in a hybrid Ford car. One of the reasons I dislike what I do, I like so many things about it, is that we produce a lot of waste. When I first started working in the business, we would just take sets and scrap and throw them away. That's changing. There is a new sensibility. There is a new directive, and Fox is actually, I think, at the forefront of that directive of working in a green way, meaning that using recycled materials whenever possible, recycling whatever you do use that's new, looking at it as a total approach. And I was very excited about that. They spent a lot of time. They actually have a team that comes up and works with the production unit to figure out how to go green as much as possible. And it makes it for it just makes for a better consciousness on the set. I remember when we shot the first movie, we shot in the desert, and everyone was drinking water from water bottles. And at the end of the day, we would have literally hundreds of water bottles piled up, and it was stupid. I mean, we could have just all had a cup and drank from a Sparklets bottle. There's just smart ways to do things, and then there's stupid ways to do things, because all that plastic ends up in landfills or is so much is unrecycled. When you look at the statistics, it's for me, it's horrifying. So I'm glad to see that Hollywood is going green. It makes me interested in the business again. I had lost some interest in what I do because of the waste and of the mentality was spend a lot of money, make a lot of money. Don't think about the product of your process. We had a small footprint. We used recycled paper whenever possible. I've actually got a list here. Our generators ran on biodiesel. We had a no idling policy for the transportation department. That's a big thing because we're working in a cold environment, and you can leave your car idling to keep the heater on. That was not our policy here. We tried to work around that. Ford gave us these hybrid cars to pick people up from the airport to and from. A lot of transportation to and from airports. A lot of transportation to and from set. They provided hybrid cars. Ford did for the actors and for me. That's a huge amount of emissions that we kept out of the air. I'm very proud of that. We had office composting recycling programs. We minimized script and sides copying, which was part of the process anyway, because we didn't do much copying of sides because we needed sides being the stuff you're shooting, the pages you're shooting on a daily basis. We didn't print many scripts, and we didn't print many of the pages from those scripts. Most people were working blind, which is not a good way to work, although it saves the environment. Our caterers had on-site composting, used food that came from within a 100-mile radius to minimize shipping. They used sustainable seafood only. That's a big deal, and I think this is the future, not only in Hollywood, but in America, Canada, the world. Eat locally, save that money, that energy, where we transport food from such great distances. These are very, very important things, I think, for not just the survival of Hollywood, but the survival of mankind, truly. We used compostable cutlery and plates. You can buy these things that are made from products that are biodegradable. When you throw them in the trash, or they decompose. They do not have that horrible life that most plastic has. We asked all vendors that what they did in support of sustainability, and that became part of the criteria for choosing suppliers. Very important. Again, everyone's on board. We choose people that think in a green fashion, think about renewable resources, think about sustainable resources, think about recycling, reusing. We used natural cleaners in the office and on set, and as I was reminded, the smell of vinegar in the office reminded everyone of that. Natural cleaners, very, very important. It's easy to go out there and buy what's cheapest on the shelf. Not always the best thing to use. We used sand on set, not salt. When we were working in snow, and you need traction, and to get traction, one of the common ways to do it is to throw salt on the snow. We were in areas where they asked us not to throw salt on it because these were areas where they were going to be growing organic crops, and there was actually a sustainable farm that was going to be in the area, also a horse facility. They did not want salt, which would have lasted in the soil there. We used sand as an alternative. That was a very, very important thing. Anyway, I'm very proud that Fox has taken the initiative. It's really where my heart is and lies as we go forward, and that everyone, man, woman, child, that does his or her part to think every time you throw something in the garbage, can I reuse this? Can I recycle this? Am I making a choice that is good for the planet, not good for me, not convenient for me? These are all important things to think about.
So this is one of the bodies we created for the X-Files film. This is the Monica torso, and we built two bodies specifically. This one was used for when the body is the head rejects the body. So we had to make it so that it could interact with Cal and Keith Rennie and be pulled along the ground and basically react to whatever agitating, whatever manipulation Callum was doing to it. So we sort of went beyond what we would normally do for a body, and we have a whole skeleton on the inside of this thing that allows it to pose and articulate. The skin has a deadened flesh effect, so that when we grab the flesh, it kind of has a slow return to it, very much how a real body would react if the tissue were dead. Made of silicone. This is the same type of silicone you find in breast implants. It's a highly plasticized, so it has that kind of deadened tissue feel to it. The whole thing is airbrushed. You can see some nice details that we airbrushed into here, all the veins, all the modeling in the skin. And so again, this is another version of the Monica body. This one is built specifically with the intention of keeping it on this gurney. So what we have here is we have a hole in the gurney right there, and with that hole, the actor Chris is able to sit comfortably on the inside of the gurney, pop his head out, and once his head is outside, then we can take out this little insert piece of prosciutto ham. This wraps around his neck, very similar to this. And then from there, we can blend it right into Chris and give the illusion that it's a man's head attached to a female body. Because the interaction with this body wasn't as severe as the earlier body that I showed you, the articulated body, Chris wanted this to remain stable on the table, not much movement with the exception of a device here that I incorporated. So with that going on, and the actual real actor moving his head around, it gives the illusion that the body is still alive. And of course, the quicker that we breathe into the tube, the more we can show a hyperventilating happening in the chest. It's a lot of fun to build that body. So over here we have an array of body parts that were used for the frozen ponds shot in the FBI lab. And these are various body parts that were suspended on the inside of the ice chunk. This is the dry version of it. Of course, when it's on set, we would wet it up with some fresh blood. But basically, we have the bone, we have the fat layer, we have the meat layer, muscle, sinew, same on this side. That's all done as a fabrication process, and then once that's all done, then we go in there and we punch all the details of the hair. Each one of these hairs is inserted one by one into the silicone, and the result is quite nice. This is the a more detailed body arm for the that represents the Russian attacker's arm after it gets severed off, and again it has that nice movement to it. Not only do we have arms and legs in the frozen chunk of ice, but we also have these torso pieces as well too, and they have again all the details are there. Chris wanted subtle details like little bits of leaves and dirt and all kinds of crap on the inside of these. There's at least one more good pot of soup if you were to boil this left in it. Here's a body that's again showing the hair work that we incorporate into it. This is the head of Marco, who played a character called Christian, and basically what happens to Christian in this film is we had to create this swatch of Marco's head in order to perform brain surgery on. And it's already clamped open, so we have a clamp device on that to already expose the brain that's on the inside. So we've seen Monica's body, and of course the body would have had a head at one time, so we made this head here. And again, this is silicone, weighs about as much as a human head, and all the hair is real. We keep it real because of the styling it has to go through, whether it's with heat or curling irons, or you just don't want to singe the hair. Each of the lashes is inserted one by one. Same with the brows, the teeth. This is Xantha. She's quite a wonderful actress located here in Vancouver. And of course, a little crazy prosciutto thing happening again. And that was found in this container, actually. The FBI, it gets delivered to them, and then they open it up and they discover that it's one of their agents' heads. This is the Okie Dokie prosthetic. This is Dokie. This represents the mass of Okie, Paul Jasper's dog. And basically it was a harness system that we had developed that comfortably attached to the actual real dog. And attached to that harness was the synthetic dog head. And over top of this, kind of to homogenize and blend it all together, there was a what I call the J-Lo sweater. And it was just a fur collar, and then brushed in. Looks very convincing. This had it's a little worse for wear right now, but it had posability to the jaw and the eyes as well. This is a cadaver that we built, and basically what you're seeing here is not the way it was first presented on set. The whole chest was covered up. There was no indication of any kind of an incision, and then the scalpel cuts it and then starts revealing all the different layers that lie within it. You have the fat layer, the muscle layer, the rib cage is cut, rib cage opens up and then reveals all the organs on the inside. We got our lungs, we got our heart, we got our liver, we got the guts. But here is a couple different versions of the liver. We discovered that this wasn't accurate. We thought it was accurate because it was healthy looking, but it turns out this is more accurate. So we don't normally just do one version. We just keep doing it until it feels right. But these are both synthetic livers, again made out of silicone. Yeah, honey, I'll be there in 2 hours. Okay, bye. So this is all packed inside of here, and then they start to close it up again, much more like a surgery though, as opposed to the way I'm doing it right now, and stitch up. And again, we have the hair. We got the punched hair on the brow. We got the stubble in this case, all individually punched and then shaved off. The eyes, and the legs, which makes for a very realistic looking cadaver.
You fuck so put that you're done!